My name is Alexa. I'm the head of online community here at Housecall Pro. I'm also your host for the Coronavirus Evening Update for home service businesses. I'm joined by my co-host, Roland. He's one of the co-founders of Housecall, and Mel, who's our Senior Vice President of People. You can think of them as your in-house business and HR strategy experts. We also have another business expert here with us, Brooks, who is another fan favorite. He is the COO of Housecall. So each evening at 5 p.m. Monday through Thursday, we are doing Monday through Thursday now, not Monday through Friday. So it's going to be 4 days a week. Tell a friend, tell a pro. We're not doing it on Fridays anymore because we want to give you that time back with your families and really prepare you for the content for the week to come. So we actually have a schedule planned out for you this week that we're going to be talking about at the end, so you know which ones to go to. We hope that you go to all of them, obviously, but we have a really stacked lineup for you guys this week. So we put a lot of effort into that, and that's why we're going down to 4 days a week instead of 5. So just make sure you tell a friend. Other than that, if you want to watch past episodes, again, we're going into week 5. That's crazy. We've been meeting every day during the week for going on 5 weeks now. So much has changed during that time, but we've also covered so many awesome topics and had incredible guests on. So if you want to watch past ones, make sure you go to our YouTube channel. All you have to do is type in Housecall Pro into YouTube, and there's a whole coronavirus evening update playlist. You can set a goal for yourself, maybe watch 1 a day. You can break it up, watch 2 a day. There's so much great stuff in there. And if you're not yet a part of the Facebook group, it's the official coronavirus discussion Facebook group for home service businesses. Just type it into Facebook. I will also post the link here once I go off the screen. I'll post the link to both of those things. There is over 2,500 pros in there now, and they're all sharing the same struggles and successes during this time as you are. So if you're not in there, that is your #1 resource, even more so than this live broadcast, because there's pros like you and their business owners who are going through the same things with you. If you're not in there, please join us in there. Other than that, I'm going to pass it over to Mel for your evening update, and then I'll be right back after that.
Great, thank you, and thanks to all of you for joining us again. I recognize lots of familiar faces and names there. So if this is your first time, thanks for taking the time this evening to invite us into your home or business. I'm Melina Fairley, Senior President of People at Housecall Pro. Please feel free to call me Mel. And as Alexa said, we come to you live at 5 p.m. Pacific, now Monday through Thursday. And we start with a daily recap of what's going on in the world, give you updates on coronavirus and news and information that you need. We're also bringing you guests and advice, and hopefully just a sense of community that all of us during unprecedented times. So as point of background, I'm not a lawyer or a doctor. I don't know everything there is to know about infectious diseases. I'm a business leader, and I'm a human resources professional with over 20 years of experience. So I'm here every night to help answer questions about your employees and your business from an HR perspective. On the personal side, I'm a proud Marine Corps wife and a homeowner and a mom of 4 pretty bored but terrific kids, as I know most of us are adjusting to kids at home and schools closed. So without further ado, here's your update for Monday, April 13th, 2020. The Johns Hopkins dashboard today that we've been tracking cases of coronavirus today topped over 2 million. Really significant milestone, unfortunate milestone there.
And what's interesting too is on the US side now, you can see total tested in the US. So rather than the recovered, it's now under this tab right here. So they moved it. So if you want to see the deaths here, you can click, for example, US deaths, but now you can see the recovered. But then here now you have tested and hospitalized. So you got additional data points. Obviously, we're getting better at getting this now and getting people out there getting tested.
Yeah, we keep getting lots of questions on, the confirmed cases can only be, based on the number of tested. So how many tests are they? And today they updated the dashboard to provide that information. So as you see here in the US, we have recorded over 682,000 cases and over 23,000 deaths. Notable, almost a third of the deaths are in New York City alone at over 7,000. And today, Governor Cuomo said that New York State's death toll from COVID-19 has topped 10,000 people. So I said it before here, definitely our hearts are with New York and all the families who've been impacted, but that state and the city of New York has certainly taken quite the hit. As Roland mentioned, they've started reporting the number of tests administered, and if you didn't see that number, it stands at over 2.9 tests in the US, and I'm sure we'll see that number growing day by day, a shocking number. So we'll continue to report on that. Looking globally, we saw that India's state minister announced that they would extend national lockdown. So this is one of the locations that was planning to end a lockdown. Theirs was to end in India tomorrow, but it's now been extended for at least enough weeks. Spain has begun to loosen its lockdown restrictions about a month after they were put in place. So some businesses such as construction, relevant to this group, of course, and manufacturing have been allowed to reopen, but most still remain at home. Avoid shops, bars, avoid gatherings until at least 26. So we're starting to see some of these deadlines countries had put in for themselves. They're reaching those deadlines, and just as we've experienced here. So both Spain and Italy seem to be continuing a recent trend in the decline of cases in countries, which is definitely good news.
Yeah, and I would say, something that we keep hearing about is that all countries now are starting to figure out, okay, what is it going to look like if we reopen, when we reopen, and how we reopen? So now that's becoming the next kind of discussion point. Do you do all at once? Do you do, like, for example, you mentioned Spain just on, construction manufacturing? Is it by trade? Is it by industry? Is it by how many people in any given area? But there's a lot of new developments coming.
What are you seeing?
Go ahead,
Mel and Roland, what are you seeing in Asia where they've had really acute lockdowns and they started to let people back out and some level of normalcy? Are they start to see the numbers creep back up again? Or are they able to keep the virus under control?
In a lot of Asian countries, they've got really good test and trace and measures in place. So you can see, for example, the news here was, Apple and Google getting together on the operating system level. How can they make it so that if someone does test positive, anyone that was within the Bluetooth low energy field of that person gets a notification saying, hey, you were around somebody, an alert. So until we have those things in place, like they do in definitely South Korea and things like that, it's going to take a little bit.
At home, we're starting these conversations get advanced as well as to how to reopen our economy. So here in California, Governor Gavin Newsom announced that with his counterparts in Washington and Oregon, that they have a regional pact to recovery with a plan to lift restrictions in daily lives as a cohort of states. So this comes after 6 states in the Northeast, including New York, New Jersey, Connecticut, Delaware, Pennsylvania, and Rhode Island also agreed to coordinate efforts. What we're seeing is that they're realizing that state borders mean nothing to a virus, right? So going in with a coordinated effort to reopen gradually over time seems to be the trend. Today also, President Trump said that May 1st is a target date as he's moving to launch an economic focus to tackle the reopening of the economy. This last week on Friday, he had said that Tuesday he'd announced he was going to lead that council, so we'll be looking forward to hearing that tomorrow. He also said that he's got the power over the nationers in setting the terms of any reopening as opposed to individual states. So I know we'll all be tuned in to see how this plays out. In other news and in sad news, I'm saddened to report a U.S. sailor from the Theodore Roosevelt aircraft carrier has died from COVID-19. So this is the ship that we had talked about on previous broadcasts. So this ship was the site of the largest outbreak in the military. So the crew member was diagnosed on 30th, and an additional 4 crew members have also been hospitalized. 92% of the crew have been tested for the virus at this point, and nearly 600 sailors have tested positive for COVID-19, the Navy said today in a statement. So certainly an alarming number there. And then most importantly, moving to the economic impact, as we know over the last week, the federal government, they tried to turn on this $349 billion Paycheck Protection Program, this money to help small businesses cover payroll for 8 weeks. The cash from the federal treasury, but you need to apply through your banks, which I know many of you are keenly aware, and we're going to be talking about tonight. And several of folks that I've talked to personally and many people online are reporting confusion, if not in some cases just outright chaos or misinformation when trying to apply. So I know that this dive tonight into some of the issues and hearing about people who've received some funds is really, really timely as this continued to make headlines across the country, all through the day. Alexa?
Awesome. Thank you, Mel. So hopefully some of you were visited by the Easter Bunny yesterday in the form of some PPP or EIDL money. For those of you who haven't, we're here to answer questions about that. So before we bring our guests on, I'm going to have Roland go ahead and share your screen. I slacked you the document. So before we have our guests on, we are going to take a look at, again, we're just going to revisit what the EIDL and the PPP are and help you understand if you qualify for it, who it applies to, and just giving you a refresh on why there is absolutely no reason that you should not be applying to get this money. And then afterwards, Brooks and Roland are going to sit down with our 3 guests who have applied and received either the EIDL or PPP money. So they're going to be answering all of your questions on the application process, what was required of them, who they went through, and their timeline. So if you have any questions, please put them in the Q&A box. If you're on Facebook, throw them in the thread and Roland and I will get them from there. So Roland, go ahead and share your screen.
All right. So the EIDL versus the PPP. So obviously a lot of this information has changed from the origination here, but me and Brooks are going to talk a little bit about the differences between the two. I'd say by and large, you know, as kind of a generalization, we've heard more pros get access to the grant money from the EIDL than from the PPP on a percentage basis. But maybe the why and what's behind it and how one goes about it. We'll cover that again real quick here. So in general, for the EIDL, you know, you go in directly to the SBA.gov site. There's a link there, you click it. We did a great little video on how to do it. It takes all of 5 minutes if you have all the information and some of the basic numbers from your business there. This is something Brooks talked about at length. I feel like, was it 2 weeks ago now?
2 weeks ago, yeah.
Yeah, 2 weeks ago now, for everyone to go apply. And, you know, they said it was going to take, how long was it again, Brooks? Did they say?
Yeah, they said they'd get funded in some cases same day, but lo and behold, we're 2 weeks later, and in some cases success, in other cases not so much.
Yep, and then also not all at the 10K amount. We're hearing reports of some in between, you know, the $1,000 and $10,000 mark. There was a state that had published something around, you know, it's $1,000 per employee, but that they took that down. Yeah, Massachusetts, they took that down. And so it's not entirely clear what that range is or what they're doing to get to those numbers. And some have, you know, postulated that the banks themselves are the ones, depending on the risk level, are adjusting those numbers as well. Where it's coming from, SBA, who knows? So we have seen some people get it. You know, even in this chat, I see now already some people are saying that they got the EIDL posted to their account. On the PPP though, it's a little bit of a different story. I'd say less people. So let's talk a little bit about, you know, obviously these deadlines have passed on when I can apply, not deadlines. You know, both the SMBs and the self-employed and the individual contractors and sole proprietors can now go through a bunch of different private banks, as well as online banks. There's been some success there. Some of the ones notably being like Lend.io, Cabbage, Square is getting into the PPP, so a bunch more of the online ones are coming through. Obviously, the difference being, Brooks, maybe you want to tell a little bit of the difference between what the EIDL can be used for and the PPP can be used for?
Yeah, one thing I'll call out on this doc, it's 1% on the loan for the PPP. They changed it from a half point to 1 percentage point there. It's still a 2-year payback and no payments due for 6 months, if I recall. But generally, like the PPP program is the government's effort to inject money into the U.S. economy. And they want to do that through people who have employees or have recently furloughed or laid off employees to bring them back and keep them on your payroll and keep them productive, right? So rather than going through a work share program or unemployment insurance, if you have a viable business and you're struggling with revenue not coming in the way you want to, and you have good employees that you want to keep them useful, purposeful, doing good work, keep them paid, and the government's going to help you do that. So the PPP program is really about keeping people employed in the country, and they create this unbelievable facility, right? So take the average of your payroll, multiply it times 2.5, and they're going to give you essentially 2 months of operating capital. 75% of that money can go towards has to go towards payroll, and the other 25% can go towards other expenses like rent or utilities that you want to pay. And if you take that money they give you, they will forgive repayment. Essentially, it becomes a grant for you. So rather than a loan, it becomes a grant, but you have to use it for the right reasons. So keep your people employed, get them on your payroll. Even if they're not out there doing full-time work, have those employees come in, work on training programs, run a sales training program, have them paint and organize your warehouse, whatever you need to do to start investing in your business as you await for the business to start picking up, as the economy starts to come back. Keep your people employed, invest in their future success so that you're ready when the opportunity comes to you. So the PPP program, keep Americans employed, keep them out there ready to go as the economy starts to come back. That's a very different lending facility through the banks than the EIDL program. The EIDL program is really built as working capital for your business for longer term. So if you want to borrow additional money that will go beyond the 8 weeks that the PPP program is built for, and again, remember, PPP is for the 8 weeks after you get the loan, which eventually will be forgiven money. When that facility is given to you, you have 8 weeks to use it. The EIDL has a much longer term horizon and can go out to as long as 30 years. Really favorable interest rate and working capital for your business for longer term. And hey, look, this may take longer than we all think to get back from recession to full recovery. So having some additional capital on your balance sheet or on your books might be a good idea for you. It might give you opportunities that you're not even thinking about yet, but you may need in 3 months' time. So definitely take advantage of the PPP program. Everyone should be on board there. Everyone should apply for the EIDL program because you get that $10,000 or up to $10,000 as a grant simply for applying. And as Roland said, you're talking about 5 minutes that may give you 10 grand. That might be the best 5 minutes you've ever spent, particularly since it's a grant for your government, and probably not one we'll see again in our lifetime. So we should all take advantage of the grant component of that and then decide for your business if you need additional working capital to run that longer term race, right? What I'd suggest, and we'll talk a little bit about this later on, Roland, is you got to have a plan, right? Just getting the money is a great place to start. You should have a plan as to what you want that money to be used for. It's a little bit easier in the PPP program. When it comes to the EIDL program, if you are going to take a loan, you really got to have a plan of what you want to do with it and for what time frame. Is it for a month? Is it for a 6 month period, for a year or longer? And start to build a strategy for that. But we'll get to that later on the show.
Yeah, let me interject just a moment about what to do in the meantime with your employees. This is probably the question that I get the most. We continue to see is, hey, I don't have them pay my workers right now, and they're begging to get laid off. And so should I just lay them off so that they can get the unemployment plus the extra $600 a week from the federal government? And then what happens when I get my PPP funds? So in that situation, there's a difference between a furlough and a layoff. So a layoff is usually something permanent. You don't intend to rehire someone, but a furlough allows employers to cut costs without completely cutting workers loose. So a furlough is a suspension from work without pay for a limited amount of time, say until you get your PPP funds or until business picks back up. So certainly during this time of COVID-19, a furlough might make sense because it allows you to pause your workers' pay without terminating them. So since you haven't terminated them, you may also be able to keep them on your benefits. So contact your benefits provider to see. Ours right now, we're with United Healthcare, and they're allowing benefits. They sent out an email to all their customers that benefits can be extended through May 31st, even if someone's not clocking any hours, which is not normal. Normally our policy would say 30 hours. So this might be the time for you to do what's called a furlough. And during a furlough, you might not have to give a final paycheck or cash out accrued vacation. People don't give up their seniority. If you have anniversaries and things to celebrate, you get to keep them as a live employee in any of your systems that you use. And although unemployment insurance varies from state to state, most states allow people to be eligible if they're working partially, but all states allow people to apply if they're not working at all. So just because you're probably going to bring them back does not make them ineligible for unemployment. In other words, if you furlough someone, they're not getting paid from you, they can apply for unemployment benefits. And likely what will also happen is they won't have to look for other work while waiting for you to rehire them, because if the unemployment office hears from them in their application that they've been furloughed, that their employer intends to recall them once they get PPP money or once business picks back up, then they'll still get unemployment benefits during that time, but often won't have to keep answering that question. Hey, have you looked for work in the last week? Where did you go? Who did you call? Did you have any interviews? So like here in our state of California, you can furlough employees and it's temporary, and then they're not required to continue to look for work. So it's sort of best of both. So before you lay people off, because they're asking you to, consider furlough, which essentially is a temporary layoff.
So Mel, do you think that with the PPP program designed the way it is, and if you have work coming in, should you go ahead and rehire those people, bring them back and have them on the PPP program since the government's basically going to pick up the full tab for that time? Or are you better off being a work share program or furlough?
Absolutely.
What do you think about that?
I think in almost all cases, it's going to make sense to bring your employees back to full employment as soon as you get your PPP money, which is what they're expecting to do, which is why they're going to forgive it if you do just that. So they're going to look at how many full-time employees, how many full-time equivalents, so not like what names, but they're going to look at how many full-time employees did you have before we gave you this money, and now you better have just as many people after we gave you this money, because we gave you the money to keep people employed. How much were you paying them? And then we're going to want you to be still paying that same amount after we gave you the money, because that's the intent. And then if you've met the criteria of bringing your company back up to full employment, then you'll have that amount forgiven, which is really the design. Basically, the government is saying, take this money because you're going to get it to your people faster than we will through the unemployment system, right? So let's put the money through businesses instead of through unemployment. So this is a good thing. You can get those people back. We've had a few questions about like, oh, are they going to have to pay back their unemployment? They're not going to have to pay back their unemployment. If they were unemployed and drew unemployment, that was valid. It remains valid. Now, when you bring them back from furlough or rehire them from layoff, now they're back on your payroll and you're paying them direct and they no longer qualify for unemployment. So everyone ends up back to
Well, just unlike in furlough means you can't ask them to do any work, right? But if they're back in your books, you can have them do work. That could be work out in the field, or it could be just even calling your customers and checking in with all your customers. You can keep them busy 40 hours a week versus 20 or even 0 hours when it's a full furlough, right?
Right. And so a furlough can also be partial. So let's say your business does not have enough work coming in to sustain it, and cash is really drying up, and you've applied for PPP. In the meantime, your employees are asking to be laid off because you're not giving them enough hours. They can still apply for unemployment, even if they're working 5 or 10 or 15 hours a week, or even 20, 30 hours a week for you. If they've had a reduction in hours, they can have unemployment plus what they're earning from you. So you can keep people partially employed while you wait for your PPP funds, and then just ramp their hours right back up once you've got that influx of cash into the business, and put them to work doing, as Brooks was mentioning, all those honey-do lists that you've been wishing that you could do yourself. Get your employees pointed in the direction of making an impact on your business, so that when the doors fly open at the end of this pandemic, you guys are in great shape.
Yeah,
perfect.
I've even seen mention on that front that the program is designed for the first 8 weeks, and there's some possibility that would continue on after that if the recovery is slower than expected for any reason. So you're better off bringing them back on, keeping them busy, keep that money going through the system like the government wants, and then see how the next 8 weeks play out.
And we had a question about folks on salary with partial furlough. Typically, if you're putting someone on partial, you would convert their salary to an hourly so that they can actually be paid for the amount of hours that they're working. So typically salary, there are certain salary minimums to have exempt employees. And so if someone's going to partial, you're going to be better off making sure that you've got folks being paid in an hourly situation.
Yep.
Hey, Mel, can I ask you one more question, Mel? I saw one of the question on the board about, do you have to bring the same employees back or not? Do you know the answer to that one?
Yeah, what you have to do is to satisfy the requirements is employ the same number of full-time equivalents at the same level of payroll costs. So it's not realistic that nobody's roster would change for a 2-month period of time. Employees can still be hired, can still be terminated, people can still quit. You're not going to not have your loan forgiven because someone quit or moved away. You'll be able to hire someone into that spot The same with someone who's not performing well. You're not held hostage by someone who's not doing a great job. We heard that question of like, oh, I can't fire anyone because I'm getting the PPP. It's like, no, I mean, I hope you don't have to fire anyone, but if something's not working out, you don't have to keep that same person. You're going to need to replace that payroll with someone else though. And it's a great time to be hiring.
Absolutely. That's what I was going to bring up, because that was something we learned. I think Thursday last week, that a lot of pros really think you have to keep your bad people just to receive your PPP, but that's not the case at all. So just remember that. So going into this next part here, really the goal of this live broadcast is to reassure you that there is money out there and you will get it. It just might take a little bit longer than you initially anticipated, especially if you haven't applied yet. So this is going to be helpful for next week. We're hoping more of you have gotten your money, even just from the beginning of today to now. Like I've seen like 10 posts of pros in the coronavirus group saying that they've received their money from either program. So what we're going to be doing next week, and we're going to have Brooks back on again, we're going to give you, we're thinking 5 plans for how to use this money appropriately based on your business type and where your business is right now in the state of things. So that's what you have to look forward to next week. But for now, let's bring on our guests. So I'll have Kevin, Amanda, and Brandon go ahead and open up your video again and your audio.
Hello.
Hello. Roland will be dipping out here in a second. But before,
sorry, I can't undo my video here. So.
Here, let me. Hold on, let me see if I can. I just asked you to start your video, Brandon.
Okay. Awesome. There we go. Hello.
Cool. So before Mel and I dip out here, we have a really great resource that just came out today that I'm so excited to share for our Canadian pros. This is not just about the EIDL and the PPP, although we are not going through that document, but I know we have some Canadian pros in here. So this is on this Canadian stimulus package. So I'm going to post that right now in the chat in both Facebook and Zoom. Just know that we did not forget about you, and we have resources and we're trying to understand more so we can provide the same level of support to you guys. So I just posted that there in the chat. That's one that I'm really excited about. And I've also been posting the resources to the EIDL and the PPP, comparing the two together, and a walkthrough of the application for the EIDL in the chat and on Facebook thread. So make sure you click on those. I'm going to be cutting my video and passing it off to Brooks and Roland, but if you have any questions for our panelists or for Brooks, Roland, or Mel during this time, make sure you put them in the Q&A box. I've seen some good questions fly past in the chat box, some that are like, is it too late to apply? No, it's not. So put that in the Q&A box and we can provide a little bit more insight after. But for now, I'm going to pass it off to our awesome guests and our 2 hosts for this next segment, and Mel and I will be back in a bit.
Thank you, Alexa and Mel.
So let's start with a quick round of introductions for the pros that don't know you guys. I recognize your names. I've seen you guys in our community, but for the pros that don't know you, if you can start out with obviously your name, the name of your company, and how many employees you have in the company. And then we're going to talk about the EIDL and the PPP. So if you can tell us which one you applied for and when. So let's start with Amanda, then we'll go Brandon, then we'll go to Kevin.
My name's Amanda Brown, and me and my husband own David Brown Heating and Cooling. We have 2 payroll employees, and then he draws as a sole proprietor. So no, like through payroll, and then I don't get paid through this job. I have another job too. And we applied for the EIDL and didn't hear anything back. And then we also applied for the PPP. And I think that was it.
Okay, perfect. All right, Brandon.
Hello. So I'm the owner of Shenko Auto Detailing, and I have 1 employee on payroll, and I'm not on payroll. And I applied for the EIDL, the disaster loan, and I haven't applied for the PPP yet. So.
All right, perfect. And Kevin, last intro.
Hey, my name is Kevin. I own Bravo Payroll. We have 10 employees. I've applied for both the EIDL as well as the PPP. I got my closing documents for the PPP on Saturday. I have to sign them no later than I think Wednesday this week. And I got funded on the EIDL grant on Friday. And I'm looking forward to telling you guys a lot more about that for me. It's very confusing, and there's a lot of different results that I know people are getting. So I'd love to touch on that when we get going.
Yeah, I'm super interested in this dynamic, right? So everyone has this panic at the beginning, and then we realize, hey, the government's going to help out to help, keep money going through the system. But then we all realize, oh my God, it's the government doing this. That's not an easy road ever, right? So here we are now, be careful what you wish for. So they say, okay, these facilities will be out there. It's $350 billion. That seems like a lot of money. And all you need to do is go apply online at the SBA facility. Then you go through your bank, and it sounds like, magic. And sure enough, turns out it's harder than heck, right? And then here we are. And there's some people like you, Kevin, who've got really quick results. A lot of other people are getting really frustrated, and all that emotion's coming back again because you're worried, like, oh my gosh, I have people I need to pay on Friday. How's that going to happen? And is the government going to do what they said they would do? Because I think there's enough mistrust out there to say, doesn't always work out like we hope. So there's some good news out there, but there's a lot of frustration out there. And it's interesting. I was reading and listening to a couple of things this morning. You had Mark Cuban out there talking about, hey, look, man, this is just banks being banks. That PPP program is banks are now, they got a bunch of scar tissue going back to 2008 when they got in all kinds of trouble because of the lending crisis. And now they're not doing what they're supposed to do. They're actually going in and trying to evaluate your creditworthiness, which is totally the wrong thing. It's not what the government meant. The government says, we are going to be the backstop for this. We are giving you money. The bank is just your facility to get the money in your hands. So, he said, look, the banks will get that all solved here soon enough. And the other thing that I thought was really an interesting number is that the government said that 791,000 applications have been approved already by the SBA. They only approved 60,000 in all of 2019. So it may feel slow, but at the same time, it's 12 times the number in a matter of a few days, like a week and a half, that the government is doing its part. They are slowly getting the money through the system, and it should start to accelerate from here. At least we hope so. What I think would be great for Roland and I to hear about from you all is, what was your experience? How has it been so far? And who did you apply for that money through? If you went the PPP route, I know, Brandon, you haven't gone there yet, but you're probably thinking about it. When you went the PPP route, did you go to a small bank, local bank? Did you have a relationship? Did you go to a big bank? And how did that work or not work out for you? Because given how emotional people are and worrying about this, I'd love to hear some success stories, at least the path you took, so that other people know what to do next.
Yeah, let's start with you, Amanda, because you've got a good PPP story.
Yes. So we are a debt-free business, and so we grow as fast as cash makes you grow. And so to hear about a loan from the government that could be forgiven was just very apprehensive for us, needless to say. But I thought, either way, we're essential. We're still working. We're paying our payroll, and we have money set aside to cover this if we need to pay it back. For some reason it's not forgiven. So my husband apprehensively was like, okay, let's start with this. So I think, I don't know, it's probably been 3 weeks now. I applied for the EIDL one, and I got a confirmation number. He never received an email because it went to his email. Nothing, hadn't heard a word. And my bank was supposed to, they weren't quite ready. What was it? The 10th, I think, no, the 3rd, when the PPP program started. And so I'm like, oh, I see all these people talking about cabbage and this other stuff. I'm like, what should I do? And so I just kind of sat on it and I waited. And then on on Thursday, I called my personal bank, and we've had construction loan with him with our house, and we've had our mortgage there. And she's like, oh, I'll send you over the paperwork. So it's like a one-page thing, and you have to initial some stuff, and it's very simple. I filled it out, and I'm like, this is too easy. And then I emailed it, and I'm like, I don't know if I need to bring any forms. And so I sent that to her, and that was maybe midday Thursday. And then the person my loan for my house I had dealt with, she emailed me back, said, hey, Amanda, submit these papers. And that was like, my accountant had told me, this is 3 weeks ago when all this was coming out, because we hadn't completed the 2019 taxes yet, that this will go off of my 2018 Schedule C for David's income, net profit. I was like, okay, so I submitted that. I submitted my 2019 profit and loss, my payroll form for 19. This is all on QuickBooks. My payroll for 2020, my balance sheet, W-2s, W-3, and then a 1090 form. So I submitted that all to her, and I actually came up with different numbers than she did, but I told her I may have been looking at different spots. And so she came back and she was like, oh, well, I have some good news for you. Your 2018 can't be counted. So we'll have to use your 2019 profit and loss net income statement, net income. Yeah. So, which actually was a lot more money because we hadn't done taxes. We hadn't, adjusted anything. So that kind of worked out better for us.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, I will accept, I think it was probably, it was more money because the income was basically doubled. And so that's what they used for David, my husband's, his salary, or what they considered his salary. And then we divided it up monthly, and then the employees, we use the 940 form, and that's how they combined those two together. And so I submitted that. I think it was like a little bit after 5, and she emailed me. She's like, thanks, I'll look at it in the morning. And I just went on my way. I was doing yard work, and she called me. She's like, hey, Amanda, let's correct this form and get it resubmitted. And I did. And I was like, okay, when do I hear back? I don't know. I was like, okay, I'll just wait. And so Friday night, I'm sitting there and I saw that people were getting their stimulus checks. And I was like, oh, let me check my online banking. And then I looked at my online banking for my business, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is legit. Like, the amount of money that was in there was not what was in there the day before. And so, Friday, she sent me over the form. Sorry, I'm backtracking. She sent me over the forms to sign electronically. And basically it was the signature for the loan itself, that you're responsible for this if you don't get it forgiven. And so I think that was like at 2:30, 3 o'clock when we submitted that back. And so by 9, 10 o'clock that night, we had the money. Somebody had made comments that maybe my bank had advanced the money. So I don't really know, but I got money.
And Amanda, just to be clear, that was the PPP loan or the EIDL?
That was the PPP loan. I didn't hear anything back about the EIDL. And yes, that was my local bank. I'd banked with them since we moved to Tennessee in 2014.
Okay. Yep. And so you've obviously been a customer, and that's one thing that we've been hearing too is, for banks, obviously they're looking, they have that scar tissue like Brooks mentioned. They're looking at, who are the safest bets right out of the gate. In a world of limited knowledge and lots of volume, you're going to cherry pick pretty quick. So, but also you had all that information available really quickly to be able to give it to them, which I think is something that Kevin also is, helping some of his people with. So maybe Kevin, what's been your experience? And which one did you apply for again? It was both?
Yeah, so I've applied and gotten both. I've gotten the $10,000 advance. I'm going to touch on the PPP first, and then if you'll come back to me at some point to talk about the EIDL, I'd really like to share what I'm thinking there, because I'm seeing crazy variance, crazy scary variance. But what I'd like you to know
variance on the EIDL, okay?
On the EIDL, it's okay. Absolutely bananas, and I'm looking forward to sharing everything I know about it. On the PPP, I will say I'm the CEO of a payroll company. We serve 350 small clients, small and medium-sized businesses, up to 300 employees. But we have a lot of guys that are 8 employees in an F-150. I sent out an email to all my clients as soon as the loan became available and told everybody local banks just seemed to be aggregating applications. So all they were doing was collecting the information for if you were interested early on. And it seemed like Cabbage was a little bit ahead of the curve. So I told people, hey, check out Cabbage. Your local banks aren't ready yet. If they are, apply there. And a ton of my clients went and applied there. After not hearing much by the way of Cabbage for quite a while, myself and some of my clients actually went and applied at other banks. I was approached by a local bank who I don't actually currently use. And they said, hey, we'd love to help you out with this, earn your relationship. And I'm like, yeah, you get this done, we'll do it. So I applied last Thursday. By Saturday, I had my closing docs for, I don't mind sharing the figures. Yeah. So my loan for 2.5 months of payroll is like $130K. So And as far as the documentation, bankers are not payroll people. They're not ready to review these documents. They have no idea what they're looking at, in my opinion. So basically, the more confident that you are in applying and the more ready you are to apply and the more backup information that you provide on what you're trying to get, the more likely you are to get it. If you submit your paperwork with a question mark, they're going to scrutinize it a little bit more. But I'll give you an example. I'm an S corporation and I pay myself on payroll, but I also take shareholder distributions like a lot of you. I was able to include, 150,000 extra in shareholder distributions that were not part of payroll. Partly for myself, partly for my wife that was owning the business, because we didn't take a full 6-figure salary last year. We took under 6 figures each. So you're allowed to collect up to the maximum of 100K a person. But I submitted my tax returns to substantiate that money, as well as, all of the payroll records for the time period that they requested. And it was pretty much rubber stamped. What I asked for, I got. They didn't come back with, hey, this number looks wrong here. And it's important to understand that payroll costs change definitions when you're applying for the loan versus when you have it forgiven. Payroll costs, when you apply for the loan, include employee paid Social Security and Medicare. It includes employee paid federal income tax. It is very important for people to realize that after February 15th, those are going to be deducted from forgiveness. So if you're running a $50,000 payroll gross and what it costs you, because you're also going to have matching taxes, it is likely that you will be forgiven for $40,000. So I do not think that the goal is to spend every dime of it and hope for it to be forgiven. I don't think it's the end of the world if some people maintain a balance at the end of this and take a 1% loan on a 2-year period.
Right. Yeah, the 1% is really interesting, right? I mean, that's the cheapest money we may ever see. And you don't have to start paying it back for 6 months, and then you have up to 2 years to finish out the rest of the payment. So if you do have a little bit of money left over, that's not necessarily, well, it could be a good thing for your business too.
What's interesting too is the FTE look back period is from February of last year to June of last year. So I actually almost quadrupled in size in August. So when I hired all my employees, I hired them in August, and the look back for my FTE equivalent is before I hired everybody. So it's important for you to know that you as a business owner have 2 choices for the FTE look back. It's either I think March to June, or it's January and February. That's your 2 FTE look back periods for what you're going to get to.
Yep. That way you can get high seasons or low seasons, or your whichever high season is for what type of business you're running. And that's why they included that.
If I heard that right, so Amanda, you had a lot of success with a known relationship, small local bank. And Kevin, it turned out that's the route that ended up being the one that funded you on the PPP side too, small local bank that sought you out to earn your business, yet they just kind of marshaled the paperwork through for y'all.
Yep.
I feel like that's a golden nugget that you just uncovered, Brooks. That's the golden nugget right there.
Yeah. There's a lot of success, like the early success, the early wins coming on the board tend to be the smaller bank relationship that we've heard more of. So Brandon, do you want to tell us a little bit about your application process, and we'll come back to Kevin here more about the EIDL process from you.
Yeah, I don't think mine's as interesting as everyone else's, but yeah, I'll share it. So I actually applied for the long form ED disaster loan, right? I think it was like around the 28th or so. And I actually had help with my accountant because we have, he does our taxes and keeps up with everything month in, month out. So he helped me out with the long form application. I could tell you one thing, that thing took like 2 to 3 hours to fill out just because like reloading the page, it was just a nightmare. So we got through it, uploaded all the documents. And then I actually logged into, I think after the 27th, I hopped into the coronavirus group, and then I seen that you had to reapply again for the streamlined application. So I did that around the 31st. And yeah, so I didn't hear anything from them back. I got a confirmation from both, from the long form and the streamlined application. And I just continued business. I mean, we're still open. So my main focus is just providing what I can right now. Whatever comes in is usually that's how I pay my guys. I don't have no debt in the business. but I said, heck, why not try to apply for this while I can? Maybe it would help out, you know? So I woke up this morning and they just made a $2,000 deposit pretty much I'm guessing it's just for me and my employee. So, I was pretty stoked about that. I was like, what? Free money? But yeah, that's pretty much it. I haven't heard anything back. I'm still waiting on, I called long ago to see how my application's going, and they said that it's under review. It's just, they're waiting for a lender. But then, I haven't got no email confirmation or anything like that. I've been thinking about doing the PPP. I just haven't came to it yet. The bank, Wells Fargo, and I know I've been hearing a lot of negative stuff about Wells Fargo. So I just, I waited till I seen it pop up on my online banking as far as the PPP loan. So I typed in my info. I haven't got a message back, but again, I'm just writing it out. That's usually my mentality. So.
Yep.
So you're saying that you're not going to apply for PPP? It's all right, Roland.
Oh no. I applied through Wells Fargo, because they asked for my information, but they said that they were going to email me back with a confirmation or more details, but I haven't received that email yet. So, and I think I did that last Friday. Okay, got it. So
interesting. So Kevin, what was your ad on the EIDL side? What did you learn in that process that you thought would be helpful for the crowd?
Yeah, so real quick, just so you know, Cabbage, who I did apply to on the PPP side, did actually send out a bunch of updates for a lot of people. So that seems to be eventually moving in the right direction for those of you that have applied to Cabbage. And just hearing the other panelists speak about Wells Fargo, you're allowed to apply in a lot of different places. You can only close on one loan. So I think Team Get Money is the right team to be on. Like, go get paid right now, because when that's out, you're going to be waiting for it to get refunded. As far as the EIDL, I think it is $1,000 per employee, and I got paperwork for my loan on Wednesday, and I could only select an amount between $1,000 and $15,000. So I chose the $15,000. I now know 3 people that have gotten loan amounts of $100K to $750K in the last day. Today, they got paperwork for it. So when we're calling into the SBA and being told that it's a $15,000 limit, that's not true. It's absolutely not true. I had somebody walk into the other room with me today, show me the same online portal that I logged into with a $500,000 approval, and they do $1 million in revenue just like we do. So we're not talking $10 million, $30 million companies, small businesses, and they're getting a $500,000 or $750K, or one I saw gets $300K a year, got $150,000. So, I'm not really sure why my business was limited to 15,000, and I've called in virtually every day to get answers. I'm grateful for the 15,000, by the way. The PPP and the EIDL and the SBA debt relief program are all fantastic programs that are going to help Americans dig out. But the inconsistencies and the process issues that we're seeing with these different programs is really frustrating and confusing. And what I can tell you is I'm really thorough on research, and I've asked for every possible variation from was the business profitable to did you have a cost of goods? What was your industry? When did you apply? And people that applied after I did have gotten approved for great, way more. And people that applied before I did also got more. People that were profitable or not profitable. It's like literally very difficult to understand. And I'm going to call the SBA office locally here tomorrow to get a little bit more information. And I'm waiting on a call back from the national line. But I don't really know how they're going to quantify that loan amount. And somebody that does 1/3 of our revenue got a $150K loan. And I can't wrap my mind around why.
So what you're saying is if you don't ask, you don't get?
You have, squeaky wheel gets the oil, right?
That's right. Yeah.
So,
and I think especially in a time of this, like there's still relationships at play. There's still humans on the other side. And obviously, when you get a hold of someone, the easiest way is, what is it with honey, not vinegar.
right.
So I feel like some of the golden rules for society are still in play there. So, you know, as you guys are going through this process with either the EIDL, PPP, just make sure you realize there are humans on the other end that are trying to process this. There are humans on the other end that are trying to win your business. So the strategy that you took is great advice for people that are still looking to apply. You know, is there a small local bank that's hungry for your business, that's looking to take market share away from Wells Fargo, Brandon? Cough, cough. You know, maybe there is, you know, somebody there that wants to earn the business and will push it through much quicker than you would think. So don't be afraid to ask and be that squeaky wheel, because the funds are there. The government, you know, it is the money's there. It's just up to the banks to go get that out to people now. Obviously, be that squeaky wheel.
Yeah. Do you guys have any other tips and tricks that you would offer to the audience here, aside from just patience? I mean, I think patience has got to be part of this deal, right?
Mm-hmm.
Big time. I'd love to give a couple tips if you don't mind. Number one, the most underutilized program right now that the SBA has announced is the SBA Debt Relief Program. So any of you that have existing SBA 7A loans, including mortgages, you simply have to call your lender and tell them that you would like to take part in the SBA Debt Relief Program. The SBA is going to make 6 months of principal and interest payments. This is not a deferment. They're going to pay down the balance on your loan. So if you have $200,000 or $300,000 loans, or you have a mortgage that's done on an SBA 7A loan, that will free up cash flow, and it will also reduce your balances. So it's going to really help you out a ton. The other thing I would recommend is for your largest invoices that you have out there with bigger company vendors, ask for terms. See if you can get 60-day terms or something like that. See if you can work with those people to free up some cash flow. And just make sure that you have access to capital outside of these programs. You know, if you don't know how you're going to make payroll, I heard your head people officer at the very beginning of the call say, well, I don't know how I'm going to make payroll on Friday. Well, that's on you. You own the business, and you either get that done or you don't get it done. And, you know, figure it out. You've got to borrow some money right now as you wait for these programs. You have to be able to pay people. You can't expect them to work for you. And the last tip I have is be careful on laying people off. That extra $600 is pretty sweet. And once people get a taste of it, getting them to come back to work is going to be a super challenge. And when we look at that 8-week forgiveness period on the PPP, we don't know how they're defining it as far as I know, unless any of you guys are aware. Is the 8-week period defining the 8 weeks when the employees work their time? Is it when I pay the employees and they receive the check, or is it when the money leaves my account? So understanding what 8-week period it is and how they're defining it really can matter, because if you pay your employees a week in arrears, if you hire somebody on Monday, you're 2 weeks away from paying them, because you're not going to pay them on that Friday. You're going to pay them on the Friday after. Now you got 6 weeks. So it's important.
So essentially, Roland, have you heard, and I thought we read this from our legal counsel, is the 8 weeks subsequent to the funding of the loan.
The funding of the loan.
No? Yeah, so I think the clock starts ticking once the money hits your account, and you have an 8-week period at that point to use that 75% of that money for payroll.
Yeah, because if you can imagine the government trying to track like everyone's payroll cycles, when they get paid, and those things would be a disaster within itself.
Right.
So Kevin, have you heard something other than that?
No, I haven't. I just haven't heard exactly how they're defining it. And I would expect that it's based on like when the money, like cash-based accounting, when the money leaves your account would make the most sense to me. But understanding, for example, that if the last day of your 8-week period is on a Thursday, you might want to run your payroll in a way that's going to make that money come out of your bank account on a Thursday, instead of running it on Thursday night and having all that money. Having all that money leave your account on Friday morning when it's a day too late. You lose a whole week of payroll there. And if you're running a $10,000 a week payroll and you don't time that right, you just lost 10 grand of forgiveness.
Yeah, so make sure that 8-week window, let's just assume it's from the day the money hits your account from the government or the bank. Sorry, from the bank. In that case, you have 8-week ticking window, and you want to jam all your costs in there up to the limits that they have, right? For up to 100,000, and at least 75% has to go towards payroll. So you got to do some game planning there too, huh?
Yeah, my thought is, again, if you're paying a week in the arrears, if you run your payroll typically with ADP, Paycheck, some of the big guys, If you run your payroll on a Monday for a Friday, they're going to try to debit you 2 days before check date. But if you're one of those people that by habit, you run it on Thursday night, the money won't leave your account until Friday morning, and that might matter to you.
You sound like someone who handles a lot of payroll.
Yeah.
That's good. Like, that's really important, right? Because that last little window might mean another $10,000 in your account after, or not, and you get your people paid the way you want to. So that's really important to think about the math within that 8-week cycle. That's super helpful. Amanda, anything you'd like to add, a tip or trick?
So what I've done, I don't know if it's going to be beneficial, but it's going to be easier to keep track, is I planned on, or I already opened up another checking account for the business, and I've already rolled that money in there. And so that way, I guess, probably on a weekly basis, considering what they were just talking about, I'm going to transfer the money back in to where it's billed from. But I've also wondered, I don't know about this because I don't get paid through here. And we had more payroll last year that we submitted. So I'm like, maybe I should start taking a check. I mean, I work here. I just don't get paid through here.
Yep.
So
You're
I don't
right.
know.
Or that payroll, if I take advantage of it. That's a good point as well.
I'm coming
Because-
back on to nod my head at you, Amanda.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, if you're doing work, you should be getting paid, especially if
Well-
your costs were higher
Good.
during your measurement look back period. And it's legit.
Yes.
You're doing work. Pay yourself.
And I do work from home for another job that pays me very well. And so that it just didn't work out tax wise is the reason I don't get paid. But yeah, I thought about that. And also like my husband's money, because we don't typically pay him as much. To be debt free, we keep a lot of money in the business, a lot of the profit in the business. And we live comfortably off my salary and pulling it enough out for him. So I'm like, I guess we're going to pay him more, but then we're probably going to keep it in our savings account just to kind of cover our own butts. You know, if we have to pay it back, we have the money there. So just some things I'm kind of looking at, and possibly, you know, even if there's money left over, because we don't have a mortgage. I mean, we don't have like business mortgage, and we're still out of the house and a shop in the house, or, you know, on the property. So we don't have utilities that directly come out of the business. So I don't have those costs. So I'm like, I want to use this for the most that I can in payroll.
Yeah, I was gonna say, try to get to 100% of the cost in payroll, and including paying yourself
Right.
and probably paying him a fair market rate too.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's a really good idea there. Really helpful.
Yeah, I don't
Brandon,
know if
anything
it's
else
all
you
going
want
to
to add?
work
Oh,
out.
I'm sorry, Amanda.
Oh, good. I was done. I was just going to
Well,
say,
you know,
I don't know if it's going to work out, but I'm trying.
The general point here, that I think we made this early on, is that the government is trying to do the right thing. They're trying to get money in the system, and they're not going to come after every dot of the I and every cross of the T as they might have if you were personally guaranteeing or something in the past. The government is guaranteeing this money, right? And they're trying to get money through the system so that the machine keeps ticking over, right? They just don't want it to seize up and become a depression. They want it to be, hey, this is a really painful time, but we can come back from this. And they want to just keep that oil going to the machine. So, you know, just be thoughtful about the things that you do. Make sure it stays in that 8-week window. Keep it payroll centric. Keep your people employed. I think, Kevin, your point was an interesting one too, which is if you lay those people off, it might be hard to get them back, because the
Wicked hard.
4 months they may get from the government on the federal level may be tough to fight. And also somebody else could go pick them off, right? They can go to work for one of your competitors or somebody else if they've got business too. So you want to take care of your family, you want to take care of your employees, you want to take care of your community and your country in that order. And I think keeping these people employed is the point that the government's trying to get through here. And the win that you get is more loyalty for the long term. Remember, they're going to have long memories. And hiring great people, we all know, is incredibly hard. Like, Amanda, you're in HVAC, right? That's one of the toughest places in the world to go find good techs, right?
Yes.
So create the loyalty for your brand that you want to have for months and quarters and years to come, that they trust you, that you've done the right thing for them. So I would, advocate the more you keep them employed and close to your business, the better. So they're there for you 6 months from now when the economy is coming back really strong again. So hopefully that makes a lot of sense. Kevin, is that what you were thinking on that front too?
There's two parts that I just want to touch on again is making sure that you hire people early so that you are able to pay them within that 8-week window. Like, you want to anticipate that hiring, because you're going to be paying them a week behind. You don't want to lose time. So if you hire them today, you're not paying them until next Friday in most cases. And then the other point that Amanda brought up that I think was awesome is open up a separate bank account. I would potentially open up 2 separate bank accounts, one for the EIDL, one for the PPP. Good accounting should be able to be good enough, but it's even easier if you just have a completely clean account that is purely used for one reason. So when you get this PPP, open up a separate account, fund it with the PPP proceeds, give that new checking account to your payroll company to debit from so that there is no confusion about what those funds were used for. You will see a bank account with your full proceeds for the PPP. You'll see payroll debits, write your rent check out of there, write your utility checks out of there until it's gone. You can save the money in your operating account that you normally would have spent on those things and buy a boat, do whatever you want. It doesn't matter. But you can't buy a boat with
I like it.
You can't buy a boat with PPP
They
money.
don't want to advertise that though.
I'm totally kidding.
Yeah.
But you literally have to use PPP proceeds for reasons that they're defined for. So there's no better, clear way to do that than to put it in a separate account.
Right. But that's a really powerful idea there. Like, we are all so privileged that we work in the trades that have emergency services as an umbrella largely. Like, not everyone, but just about. And that means the government, if that PPP program will fund your business for 2 months, but you still have revenue coming in, I hope.
Right.
Some, a lot, even more than before. That's all revenue that now all your costs, your biggest costs like labor and rent, are going to the government. Uncle Sam is paying that number for you. And that means, like, you know, if I'm a squirrel, I'm salting away those nuts, right? I'm just putting that money away. I'm going to save that money. I'm not going to go buy a boat. I'm putting that money away so that I have that for the next 2, 3, 4 months to come after it, right? Yeah. I know you weren't serious about the boat thing, but still,
I was totally kidding.
Like, take advantage of that, salt that money away, and be prepared for the future. Because what we're going to talk about next week is, now you got the money, now what? Right? What's your plan? What's your strategy to take advantage of this 8-week period and beyond that? What's your plan with that $10,000 you get for that EIDL grant? What are you going to do with that money? And you got to have a plan. And I think that's going to be a great, like, what we hope is everyone goes, okay, I got the process. I got some money coming. Now what? And by next Monday, we'd love to talk about a handful of ideas from really successful pros that we're hearing, because they built a plan and now they're executing it day by day by day. They have a vision for what they want to do during this period. And it has nothing to do with panic. It has all to do with action, and really thoughtful action. So their businesses actually may come out of this as healthy, if not healthier, than they went into this extraordinary time. Roland, is that what you're thinking about for next week on Monday?
Yeah, and I think just from a strategic level, you know, remember, if you're not going out and getting these really cheap loans, you're putting yourself in a position where your competitor has taken advantage of it and has now this stockpile of gunpowder to use against you, right, in the local area. So, you know, for anyone that's still like, I don't know, I don't want the government to be all up in my books, or, you know, this and that, there's going to be a really big differentiator coming soon here in the next couple months, when the businesses that have this extra stockpile and the ones that don't have this extra stockpile. So if you're on the fence about applying for either of them, go do it, because now's your chance to go get that free money, that free gunpowder for later, because you're going to come out the other end much stronger than before.
And don't let courtesy or distrust get in the way of survival and or the path of thriving. Like this, we will never see, God, I hope we don't, we'll never see this kind of money again. Take advantage of it. Salt that money away. As Roland said, keep that dry powder so you go fight another day, right? Because otherwise your competitor is going to, and they'll come eat your lunch, right? So take the money, and we'll get through this process and build a great plan, and let's see what happens. We sort of think about it. So Roland, do you want to do Q&A? What do you want to do at this point? Anything else?
Yep.
Can I please add one more thing? Just real quick,
sir.
on the EIDL, because some people are seeing really large amounts like the 150 or 500K. I really do recommend separating that into a separate account from the PPP. It is very important that you do not have redundancy in the use of those two. So you cannot cover payroll with both. You can't cover utilities with both. But you know what you can do, from my understanding, is that you can cover payroll and you can cover rent, just not for the same period. So if you use that PPP to cover it for the 8 weeks, and then you can switch over to the EIDL for a period of time outside of that. But I really do think it would be a very smart move to separate funds into 2 separate bank accounts and make sure that you're separating what you're using them for.
That's a great idea. Amanda?
I have a question that kind of goes on that. You know, we're talking about, I wasn't going to connect my payroll to that other account, but that's really a lot better of an idea. But what about like weekly? I pay my federal taxes $941, $944. So does that come out of that account? Because I know you were talking that it doesn't, like some of those things are not necessarily forgivable. That component isn't. So what are your thoughts on that, Kevin?
My thoughts on that are, yeah, I would. Just
Okay.
because, like, I think that you'd have the benefit of the doubt for an argument if anybody ever wanted to call you. Not that I think that they ever would, but I'm sorry, I didn't know I couldn't do that might work there. Whereas though if you bought a boat, they wouldn't forgive you. So it's like if you pay your federal income taxes and that is a disallowed expense under payroll costs, I think it's reasonable to assume that a 2-employee owner of an HVAC company might have made a pretty simple mistake there. Worst case scenario. Worst
right,
case.
makes sense. Yeah.
All right, great. Alexa and Roland, what else did you want to cover today?
All right, so we have a few questions here. Mel has answered 15 of them already in the Q&A. So if you asked a question, we're not covering it, chances are Mel has already answered it for you. And I'll post the answers to that in our Facebook group. But for now, I'm going to go through some of the top questions. We may have gone over them, but we've learned so much during this time. So let's just quickly summarize these things. So our top voted one from Justin: what do I do if I haven't heard back from my SBA disaster loan assistance? And this is one that was upvoted a bunch of times. What is the next step for those people?
Yeah, so this is the EIDL loan, which is you're not going through your local bank. You're going through the SBA.
So normally you're on hold for 45 minutes to an hour and a half. Ask me how I know.
Be exact.
Yeah.
Call
Make the
over
call,
again.
Kevin, you're saying make the call, right?
Make the call, take action.
Yeah, sit online, make the call, try to get some more information, because right now you don't have the information you need. Just keep pushing and probing until you get some information.
And if you haven't reapplied since you did the paper application or the long form that took several hours, if you don't know what it's like to apply in 15 minutes, then you're not in the right line.
Yep, that's great advice.
So our next one, we have a lot of sole proprietors, both on Facebook and in here. I'm a sole proprietor and I don't take a paycheck. I pay for everything from the business account. How do I show this as payroll?
Net income.
Or the 2018 versus 19, depending on which one. I was told by accountant 2018, and then I was told by the bank 2019.
Awesome.
Typically, the banks will want you to take the larger one out. So it's 29. They might actually ask you leading questions to figure out which one might be larger, and then have you go in that direction just because of that.
Maybe that's why they
it's
did
not necessarily
that as well.
bad, by the way. Yeah, it's not necessarily bad either, because these are the cheapest loans you'll ever get in your lifetime. So get all the money you can get, because it's essentially free.
Our next one is, just trying to see here, 2 weeks ago. Can someone clarify what the sequence of events leading up to the lending offer for the EIDL was? I filled out an online application, and now I wonder how the information or inquiry came back to the applicant to iron out the amount that was offered for a loan. Is it a bank person?
Nobody contacts you. There's no contact. You apply online. I called several times, and then what happens is I actually eventually got an email inviting me to fill out my application, and it said, click here to create an account. I created an account. It was a very simple, I actually took screenshots of the whole process so I can actually send that to my Housecall Pro contact on the other side so you guys can share that. But there was like a little slider that I could use to select a loan amount from $1,000 to $15,000, and I did it. And then I had to just verify the loan documents and electronically sign. I did that on Wednesday, and I had my direct deposit on Friday for the $10,000 advance.
Awesome. Thank you, Kevin. This is one for all of you as well. How will the money be listed in my bank account? I see a possible credit or deposit, but I can't match it to SBA or EIDL. Will it show up?
I think, yeah, I have the, yeah, I have it. Let me find it.
In the group, if you go to the Facebook group, are there a number of examples that people show the deposit and what the format is for it?
I think mine's actually said SBA on the front of it too when it got deposited. It says
mine
SBA.
Mine says SBAD, SBAD, TREAS, TREAS, 310, MISC Pay. And then it has EIDL Advanced in it. So it says EIDL ADV :3300.
We're definitely seeing people in the discussion group post some screenshots, blacking out the amount, like celebrating. And I think that's helping people see like, okay, this is what I'm looking for.
Right.
Yeah. Maybe that's just a call out for those of you guys that are watching this. For those of you that have received PPP or EIDL, you don't even share the total amount or whatever, but share the screenshot of it, blank it out. But that way people can recognize what the ticker is, because I think it is also different depending on the banks, because banks show different character limits as well. So it may or may not be truncated, and it might look funky for some of you guys.
Actually, now that you
helpful.
say that, mine does say SBAD on it as well too. So for 310.
So bad.
I didn't.
That's
So bad.
I think posting them in the Facebook group is super helpful for others to see also, but tell your story around it. Like hearing Amanda talk about how did she apply for this, small bank, local bank, relationship, no relationship, when you applied, the time. I think that information right now for people who have uncertainty is super valuable for them. So just add a little color to it, a little bit of your story, as well as the numbers and success that go with it.
Mm-hmm. You can, and if you don't want to type it all out, you can go on as a Facebook Live. Those are always really fun to do, and you'll be able to reach a lot of people. Actually, that's our topic for Wednesdays. We're going to teach you how to do that on your business Facebook page, so you can reach your customers that way. So hopefully by the end of this week, you guys will be going live sharing about how you got your money and how you applied for it. But that concludes all of our Q&As. Roland, if you can share your screen about the meetups. We're doing this now.
Let me go find that. Hold on one second.
And maybe since we have Brandon here, who is a pro leader, we can have him speak a little bit about it. So,
sure.
As you guys know, we offer free online meetups through Zoom, which can be thought of there as an extension to these coronavirus evening updates. It's a really great opportunity for you to join other home service pros face-to-face. You network, you talk about a certain topic. There's 7 this week, and Lily will drop the link in the chat box. And if not, go to the Facebook page and she'll be posting a link there too. We also have a Lady Pros one this week. So hopefully Amanda, you'll be there. I'll be there. Mel will be there. It's a little bit before this one, so you might have to like double dip. But we will have, we will have the links in the comments for you. And since we have Brandon here, Brandon is one of our pro leaders. And if you could sum up what these meetups are and what the virtual meetup has been for you, can you share a little bit about that?
You're on mute.
Oh, I unmuted him. Wait. Okay,
Sweet.
wait.
Sorry.
Okay, you're good.
I think I'm back on.
Yeah, you are.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, as far as the virtual meetup, I think it's just a good platform for everyone to kind of, feel as far as like topic wise, everyone has a good input. So it's always good to see as far as like what people are doing that are open, what tools are we utilizing to obviously bring in business. How everyone is getting through all this. So it's definitely something to tune into and take some time if you do have it. Hey, you also get a Grubhub for it too, so you could get some food while you attend these meetups. So that's my input.
Yeah, I've been able to attend quite a few of them, and last week we did the first trade specific ones. We had an HVAC one, and there were so many people that showed up. The next night we did it again. So if Amanda, for you, I know that we're going to have another HVAC feed up, I think once or twice a month, and again other trades as well now. And it was amazing seeing the innovation within the trades, like very specific ideas of products that are working well or marketing approaches that are working well about the work that you do every day. And just the pace of innovation, the support, and the community that's in those groups is absolutely amazing.
Awesome. So if
Ready
you
for
have
the next
not
one?
attended one, please attend them. They're awesome and they're free. And then the last thing we want to talk about is we have a Pro Talk podcast now. So we have been JC has been going around the country interviewing pros from all different industries, getting their story, getting their history of their company and why they're in the trades, and also really sharing some valuable business insights. We have the last 2 episodes have been on the coronavirus and how those pros are dealing with that in their business. So you can go on iTunes, your Google Play, wherever you get your podcasts, it's on there. Just search Pro Talk Podcast. Roland, you can stop sharing your screen. And then I want to quickly talk about what our topic is for tomorrow. This has been the most prepared week for us. In
this video, we're going to walk through how to apply for a small business loan through the
That is, if you're wondering, the EIDL application. It's 1.5 minutes long, and it will take you 10 minutes to apply.
I'm sending links in the question and answer still. I'm answering questions, but I opened up our page with the walkthrough of the EIDL, so I don't dare open it up again.
Oh my gosh. Well, yeah, we posted that in the chat box. So I posted it on Facebook. It's in housecallpro.com/coronavirus. So go through there if you haven't yet. There are so many new resources, but here's what you have to look forward to this week. So tomorrow we have Hal Rosen on. He's a CPA, and the topic of tomorrow is tax saving secrets in 2020. So these are tips and tricks on how to maximize your tax deductions and the important COVID-19 implications. So this is one you don't want to miss. He's one of our Housecall Pro partners, and so he will be just explaining what all these new legislation, what that means for you in terms of your taxes next year. So it'll help you have the upper hand. And then on Wednesday, you have a workshop Wednesday with Roland and myself. We're doing Facebook 101, how to run a successful live. You see Roland posting on Facebook, he gets like 100, 200 comments on it. He gets all these likes, gifts on it. So we're gonna be teaching you how to do that for your customers, because right now engagement is everything. You need to become a content machine right now. So we are gonna be teaching you how to do that on Wednesday. And then we have a really special guest on Thursday. If you went to the Lady Pro Mastermind in Dallas, Texas last year, you know this name, Nancy Friedman. She's going to be coming on, and it's all about selling with compassion during a crisis. Selling is a very touchy subject right now, as we've seen from the faith group. So she's going to be teaching you how to do that in the best compassionate way possible without being pushy or sounding desperate. So that is on Thursday. We'll post the lineup for this week. Share that with your friends who are in the trades, who own small businesses. It's applicable for everyone. So Monday through Thursday, we're not doing Friday anymore, and that's going to be at 5 p.m. Pacific time. So you can help us out by inviting your friends to the Facebook group, by sharing the coronavirus resources with them. We do this for you, so let us know what you want from us, and we will do our best to provide. So other than that, thank you, Brandon, Kevin, Amanda, for coming on and sharing your evening with us and giving your insights. I know, like, we had the same amount of viewers the entire time. Everyone wanted to hear your guys' story. So thank you for sharing and being helpful in our community.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
That being said, we'll see you tomorrow, 5 p.m. Pacific.
Oh, okay. Go to your local bank. Do the PPP. I'm buying a boat, just so you guys know. All right? Peace.
Buy the boat.